Hey, everybody, and welcome to our latest STEM Her Way webinar. I'm Kathy Cox-Boniel. I'm the director of the Skills Region 8 STEM Center that's housed at Louisiana Tech University in Ruston, Louisiana. And we want to say Happy New Year. This is our first webinar of the new year. And we have missed being out there because we were used to kind of hitting it every month, but the holidays hit, and then January's been a bit of a challenge for everybody. So here we are, early February, and we're excited to be here. And we have a great guest tonight. And I am going to ask Ashni Shah, who is the brainchild behind our STEM Her Way initiative. Ashni, if you will introduce our guest, and then we'll get underway.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a minute, so I'm really excited to get the webinar series going again. So this is Miss Misty Moore, who serves as the Pharmacy Technician Coordinator and Instructor at Louisiana Delta Community College, where she has become a vital part of the academic community. And in her role, Misty is responsible for overseeing the pharmacy technician program, which ensures that the curriculum is comprehensive and up to date with the latest industry standards. And she also plays a crucial role in mentoring students and prepares them for successful careers in the pharmacy field. And her journey in the field of pharmacy began over a decade ago when she first became a certified pharmacy technician. And her passion for her job is matched only by her deep commitment to her family and to her community. And she believes that a strong community is built through education and support. So thank you so much. And we're really excited to hear what you have to say today. So
All right. Well, thank y'all so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I love to support, especially young women and education. So my journey has been full of unexpected turns and lessons to kind of get to where I am now. So I'm gonna kind of share a little bit with y'all. So I grew up very poor, as a lot of people in this area have, and so I knew very young I needed to do something different. I needed to figure out what else that I could do so that when I had my family and my children, that hopefully things could be different. We all want to break those generational curses, and we all want to do better for the generation that we're bringing up. My first job, surprisingly enough, was at a farmer's market here in Monroe. And I started out at 13, and was just taking grocery bags to elderly vehicles and helping them, carry things, stuff like that. And by the end of the summer, someone else had hired me to run their produce stand for them so they could be out in the field. And so I learned very early that I wanted to be someone who went above and beyond, someone who did more than just the minimum, and someone who wanted to learn and excel. So I did that for a couple summers, loved it. Freshman year of high school, one of the first turns of my journey started, and I met, my high school sweetheart, got pregnant, had to drop out of high school, got my GED, stayed home with her for a few years, and then moved back home and decided that, I had to, again, do something different. And so went to work for a local law firm, did that for several years, started out as a receptionist, worked there, got promoted. And by the time I left the law firm in 2006, I was the senior attorney's secretary and paralegal. I was also going through a divorce, had two more children. So I had three children and was going through a divorce and needed something a little more family friendly. And one of my pharmacist friends said, "Hey, I'm looking for a pharmacy technician. We do our own training in-house. We can get you hired. We can do all these things." And so, of course, yes, I grew up having a very precious pharmacist in my life. He was an independent pharmacist, and he had his pharmacy for years. He actually sold that pharmacy to Brookshire's, and that's the pharmacy that I went into. So there, I learned as much as I could, asked questions, again, stepped out of comfort zones to do more things and to learn. And then just kind of got promoted through the ranks there. A few years later, I moved to a different pharmacy and worked there for about 3 months, and their lead technician left. And so I was given that job. And so I did that for a couple of years. It gave me the ability to attend all of my children's functions at school, soccer games, all that. I have a love for the elderly community, as well as children and young adults. And so I got to interact with a lot of different people. Pharmacy students coming through was a lot. So I got to help train them to be the pharmacists of our future. So that was great. Then Berkshire's had a job come up for a pharmacy trainer. And my pharmacist told me, hey, you need to apply for that. It's a corporate job. You'll go around doing what you do in our pharmacy, but for 3 states. And so I was like, okay, I'll apply. Never thinking I would ever get that job, but I did, in fact, get the job. Did that for a couple of years, thought that was going to be the job that I retired from. And then life threw me another curveball, and the company that I was working for restructured and got rid of all of our training departments. And so that kind of put me in a fork in the road. Like, what am I going to do? I didn't want to go back into being into the pharmacy. One, it was a huge pay cut. And 2, not give me the flexibility that my job had given me. So that led me to Louisiana Delta Community College as a student. At the age of 38, I went back to college. Scared to death to do it, but I did. My second semester, I was taking a psychology class, and we were having something called Meet the Chancellor. And my psychology teacher was like, okay, we're not having class today. You have to attend this Meet the Chancellor. You have to show up, you have to sign in, or you don't get credit for your class today. So I'm, going down to where we were having the meeting, and I was a little frustrated because at this point, like, I'm working full time. I've got children at home. I'm going to school full time. And if I have an hour that I was supposed to be in class and I'm not going to be in class, I would rather be using that to benefit me in some other way. But I went ahead and went. Our chancellor at the time was Chancellor Epps, and he was talking about how we were partnering with ULM on all these programs that we had going, and doing all these partnerships with them. And in my mind, still pharmacy. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening. And I'm like, we have one of the best pharmacy schools in Louisiana, literally right down the road from us. Like, why are we not partnering with them? The laws are about to change in Louisiana to where you have to be certified. You have to go through a training program. And so I am not one, at the time, I was not one to just walk up and strike up a conversation with the chancellor of our college. But the more he spoke, the more I listened, and I thought, what do I have to lose by going up and talking to him when this is over? So I did. I went up to him, introduced myself, started asking him 100 different questions. And he was like, whoa, hold on. Like, how do you know all this stuff about pharmacy? Why are you at a student event and all this? So I explained to him that I was a student there and I had been in pharmacy for, about 15 years at that point. And he said, he was like, I would really like to meet with you and discuss this a little bit more. Can you leave me your information? And so I thought, okay, well, that's a nice way for our chancellor to, dismiss me and go on about his day. And so I give him all my information. And sure enough, a few days later, his secretary called and wanted to set up a meeting. So I go to this meeting and find out that Louisiana Delta is looking to start a pharmacy tech program and that they're looking for someone to help them kind of get it going. I'm a student, and so they offer a student position, working, I think, like 10 hours a week, helping get in the pharmacy lab set up, cleaning out some things, ordering some supplies, looking at the curriculum, things like that. So I did that while I was in school there. And so when I graduated, I had my business associates and I wanted to go on to ULM and finish out my business degree. Delta didn't have a full-time position, so I thought, okay, I'll just find something else. And so I went to work for an attorney here in town as his office manager. Still kept in touch with Delta, helping any way that I could. And in 2020, I think the end of 2020, I got a call saying, hey, we have this position posted. We'd like you to apply for it and go through the interview process. And so I did. And surprisingly enough, again, because I didn't have enough faith in myself at the time, I got the job. And so January of 2021 was my first year teaching. And I kind of had that imposter syndrome. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not I'm not this teacher, I don't know that I can do this. And so once I got in front of those students and once I started sharing my knowledge of pharmacy and my love for pharmacy and just love for people, anything in the healthcare world, you're going to have to take care of people. You're going to have to love on people. You're going to have to carry so many hats. One day you may be a referee. One day you may be a therapist. One day you may just need to hug them and tell them it's going to be okay. And so the more that I was able to share and teach these students, and then when my first class graduated and they passed their national exam, that was like the fire that just lit me up. And so I'm in my fourth year of teaching and absolutely just love it. A lot of things have gotten me there. A lot of things have knocked me down. A lot of things that if I wouldn't have done, I don't think that I would have gotten here. One, going back to school, scared to death, non-traditional student. And so I have a few little points that I came up with, and it was really like, what would I want to hear when I was a young junior high school student about where I was going to go, because we don't know where we're going to end up. You guys on here may think, okay, well, this is where I'm going to go. This is what I'm going to do. And then your second, third year of school, you may decide, hey, this is not what I want to do. So, Kathy, if you'll share those points with me, I'll kind of go over them real quickly. And these are just some things that's kind of helped me get to where I am. And I'm very excited to be where I am. And again, life has thrown me another curveball. And so as we're going, when Kathy emailed me and asked me about this, and we were talking about it, the pharmacy tech program is actually in its last semester at the school. And it's very sad for me, but I came to Delta to put good pharmacy techs out in the field and to give back to the profession that had been so good to me. And so that's what I've done. And so I'm excited to see where the path will lead me next. And so these are just a few things that have helped me get through. Prayer, like just pray, have faith, trust, and give yourself some grace, because we're all going to fail. It's just a matter of getting back up is what's going to be key. We're all going to make mistakes. It's how you handle those mistakes that really gets you to your next point. Believe in yourself, no matter where you start or where life takes you. Trust in your ability to grow and to succeed, to be successful. You're all going to have imposter syndrome at some time, but just believe in yourself and have faith in yourself. Always be a learner. One of the things as I look back, even in jobs that I did not enjoy or did not want to be in, there was always something there for me to learn to help me get to where I wanted to be. So always be willing to learn and do new things. Do your best all the time. My children hate this because I tell them, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability every single time that you do it. My daughter made it to play collegiate soccer, and she swears I'm the reason that she broke her leg, because she was like, something told me just to let that ball go by. But then I hear mom's voice saying, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. She goes to stop the ball and she does break her leg, but she broke it really good. So that was just do the best that you can all the time. Things will happen. Learn to pivot, not panic. I did a podcast with Kathy maybe a year and a half ago, and that was my slogan. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm going to panic, but then I'm going to pivot and I'm going to do something. And so this year I've kind of changed that to where I don't necessarily need that panic step. I can just pivot. And so it's really important to know that you can pivot. Things are going to change. Life's not going to go as planned. Be flexible and find your way forward instead of being bogged down or stuck in that frustration, because that will affect a lot of areas of your life. Listen to your gut. Trust your intuition, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Your gut's guiding you down your right path. Had I not listened to my gut that day, sitting in that Meet the Chancellor and gone up and met with him, I don't know that things would have gone the way that they did. So always do that. Always go with your gut, listen to it, because it's going to put us down the right path when sometimes our heart and our head doesn't do that all the time. Be an overcomer, not just a survivor. Life will challenge you, and instead of making it through, choose to overcome and come out stronger on the other side. And those are the things that I've learned in my years, and things that I've tried to instill in my children. I have 2 girls and a boy, and the things that I hope to leave with you guys today.
Thank you so much. That was amazing to hear from you and very inspirational. So I just have, I guess I can start with my first question, and then maybe we can take turns, or if Miss Kathy has any. But my question was, I know you talked a little bit about like mentorship and how that's shaped you, but why do you think role models, especially female role models, are important for like young girls and girls who don't have, a lot of people that look like them in the career that they want to go into?
Yeah. Well, it's women don't haven't always had the same opportunities as everyone else, and so I feel very strongly about us giving back, because someone give to us in order for us to get to where we are. And so I think it's really important that we take that opportunity to give back to the younger girls, and even girls our age. Like my friend group now, we still sit and we encourage each other, and we say, hey, you can do that when you get nervous or scared. And so it's really important, because they see, hey, I'm not the only one that's struggling. I'm not the only one that's kind of going through this, or I'm not the only one that feels like maybe I can't do this, when they really can. And who else to listen to but someone who's made it, because have we all really made it? But, so I really do think that's important. And, right now my daughter's going through a research thing at ULM, and she's like, Mom, I'm just so excited about how many people who are willing to pour into me for this project. And so I said, just remember, when you get into your career and you've done, the things that you want to do, remember, even though it may be a little tiresome, and even though it may take you a little longer to get what you need to get done, to give back, to remember the people that poured into you so that you can pour into someone else. Because you can't pour from an empty cup, but you also have to fill your cup in order to fill into someone else's. So I hope that answered your question. I like to go around the bush and back again. So
Yes, it did. That was wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to throw one to you, Misty, and it's just
Okay.
it's nuts and bolts right here. So our webinar will have a national stage once we get it on the NGCP site. And we may have some young ladies that are watching it that have no idea what a pharmacy technician does. Can you kind of give us an idea of what that work looks like?
Absolutely. So every state's a little different. So in Louisiana, once you get licensed, we have the ability, when you bring in a prescription and you turn that in, a pharmacy technician is going to be the first one that looks at it, reviews it. We're going to be the one that puts it in the computer system, types it, pulls that drug, counts that drug, puts it in the bottle, labels it. We update all the information in the computer system, and then we give it to the pharmacist, and then they go through and check for, any contradictions or things that it may interfere with, food, OTC, vitamins, just anything. We also are able to give and take transfers over the phone. In some states, that's not allowed. We keep up with the inventory. Oh man, we have tons of things that we do. Order supplies, manage inventory. Now there's so many things that we can do once we have our national license. So you can have a national license through the PTCB or a state license through Louisiana. Now pharmacy technicians can give, they can be immunizers, so they can give injections. So that's something else that they can help pharmacists do. We do medication therapy management, where insurance companies will send us cases, and we kind of go through them and see, maybe this patient's taken 2 medications from 2 different doctors that are ultimately doing the same thing, or maybe they have questions. And so we work with the pharmacist to work up a case, and then our pharmacist will sit down with the patient and do that. We work on prior authorization. So let's say a doctor brings a prescription to your pharmacy. We run it through your insurance, and your insurance says, hey, we're not going to pay for this. we need a prior authorization. Well, nobody that's not in pharmacy does not understand what a prior authorization is. So we work with the doctor, with the patient, and the insurance company to get the additional information that they need to get our patients taken care of. We just do anything and everything that we can do to assist a pharmacist in taking care of our patients. Legally, we're not allowed to counsel in any of the states, just because that's the pharmacist's role. But anytime that you call to a pharmacy, probably the first person that you're going to talk to is a pharmacy technician, and they're going to handle, I would say, probably 85 to 90% of anything that comes through the pharmacy. We try to be that, let me see if I can take it before I give it to the pharmacist role. So, but we're there to support and do anything that we can to make sure that patient safety and getting you the right medication is our goal. And I'm sure I missed a lot of things that we do, but I'm sitting here in my mind of all the things that we do.
That was quite comprehensive. Okay, I've got another one. And then girls, if
Okay.
you have one and you don't want to say it, you can put it in the chat or just, let me know and we'll cut you because I can sit here and ask questions all night. So,
Mhm.
Misty, and thinking back along your journey, what experiences early on that you encountered, engaged in, whatever, how do you think that helped you in arriving
Um,
today?
well, pharmacy was never where I thought I was going to go. And when that pharmacist said, "Hey, we have this job open, think about it, fill out the application, all that." Well, I went home that night and I was like, "Man, why would I want to be in pharmacy?" And then I started thinking, my grandmother, again, our entire family used Perron's Pharmacy that was in Lakeshore. Mr. Walter and Nancy Perron were pharmacists for years. And I just loved how it didn't matter what was going on when my grandmother brought that prescription in. They took that time to visit, to educate her, to talk to her. And, I can remember her going in there and him saying, and this was back before, prices were outrageous like they are now. It may have been a $50 medicine. And she was like, "Oh, Mr. Walter, I can't afford that." And he was like, "That's fine. You take your medicine. You pay us what you can pay us." And so I never saw my grandmother or anyone else outside of my family go without their medication for an inability to pay. And it didn't matter if you were man, woman, child, whatever. Mr. Walter and Miss Nancy were going to treat you the same way. And so I appreciated that compassion, and I appreciated the things that I had learned, even as an adult, having children. When I would bring my kids in there and I had questions about medication, my pharmacist never made it seem like it was an issue. And so I just appreciated that compassion and that understanding and the education and the willingness to give. And so I knew that that's what I wanted, my life to look like. When I hope one day when I'm no longer on this earth, people will say, she was compassionate, she was helpful, she was, she took the time. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you make. Yes, money's great, but it's about, how we live our life on earth.
I think that speaks to what Ashley was asking about when she asked about the need for good female mentors and role models. What you just described is someone who informed your path by the way they did their business. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the important message there is we never know when someone's watching us. And so
That's right.
even as where we are on this Zoom, we're at different points along our journey, we're at different stations. There's still someone watching. There's a young girl watching. There's a young adult watching or whatever. And they're looking for someone that can sympathize with where they are because they've had that same type of
Mm-hmm.
experience. One thing that I heard you speak to a lot was persistence and grit and not giving up. I think that's one of the things that sometimes get lost. And if you could
Yeah.
speak to the need for persistence, and grit is the word I really like to use, I
Yeah.
wish you'd do that.
Yeah. So, there again, I'm just going to use my journey. There have been so many times that I could have just been like, "Oh, I'm done. It's too hard." But when you do continue to dig down deep and see what you can do, I think you surprise yourself. And then when you learn that, hey, I do have what it takes to get through this grit and to do all the things. And that's when you're able to lend that hand to someone else. And so giving up is never an option. Um, there's always going to be, like my pivot, don't panic. There's always going to be something that happens. Something's going to happen in your life, and you're going to have to sit with that for a minute. And then you're going to have to figure out, okay, how do I do this? Giving up's not an option, because when we give up, then life we just become that tumbleweed that's going through. And, it's not an option for anybody. Giving up, even when it gets the hardest. If you feel like you can't go on, then I hope there's women in your life that can lend that hand. And I hope there's women, all of us on this call, that we pay attention to the people in our life. And when we see them struggling, we're willing to say, hey, you're not in this alone. So.
I listened to an interview by George Harrison, you youngsters. He was one of the Beatles. And they were talking to George about his experience, and they were trying to compare it with Elvis. Okay. And George said Elvis was by himself. Nobody else on the planet knew what it was like to be Elvis. We had each other. There were four Beatles, all knowing what it was like to take that journey. And that's what you're saying. We want to be that sidekick for the person going through, that person that says you can make it through. Absolutely. Okay, tell me this. What's the most fun about pharmacy? Fun.
I enjoy making things. We get to compound. Now, the laws have kind of changed a little bit, so we don't do near as much in pharmacy as we used to, but we used to have this punch method where you would have powder that you had to put up in this little square, and you would literally have to punch your pill in there and then weigh it to make sure you had all the ingredients. And that was the funnest thing to me, compounding things, making those lollipops, like when kids have their tonsils out and you make the lollipop so they suck on them and it numbs their throat. Like, those are the fun things to me. But I'm a talker. I love to talk. I love to chit chat. So meeting new people, catching up with, customers. Like, my kids still will not go to Brookshire's with me when I go grocery shopping, because they're like, Mom, we're not going to spend an hour, because you run into everybody that in there. And I've been out of the pharmacy probably 4 years, but you make those connections and you see those people. And I can't tell you how many of my customers still check on me now. I'm like, hey, just checking in on you. We miss you in the pharmacy, and, things like that. So I would say either making stuff like, back there, compounding, or meeting the customers and having that relationship. Because I've got some really good friends from those connections that I've made in the pharmacy. So it's a job, so it's not always fun, but there are fun things about it. So.
All right, girls, does anybody, what'd you say, Misty?
I was just going to say, the first of the year is not the fun time, because that's when the insurance changes and nobody has an insurance card. And so nobody probably has anything good to say about pharmacy until probably the mid-February, because it's pretty rough, but it's always a good time.
And as I told Misty when we first met, I was a pharm tech when I was going to college. In fact, I really considered going into pharmacy, but that's a whole other workshop. But anyway, the thing I disliked the most was inventory. And see, back in 1977, 78, there was no mechanized way to do anything. I mean, I had to count every pill that was in that pharmacy. So I did not like inventory, but I loved everything that you talked about. I love the science behind it all. I love the personal part of it where you interact with the patients and all. And I don't know, it was very fulfilling. It's just really good, fine work.
Yeah, it is good.
All right, girls, anybody else? Miss Kathy's just been going to town over here.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
So you touched a little basis on connections with your customers, and from based on your story with you reaching out to the chancellor, do you believe that networking plays a role in getting a job?
Yes, absolutely, I do. So and I'm gonna kind of go around the bush and I'm gonna come back and answer your question, but with customers, we have to realize that a lot of times when we meet these people, we meet them on bad days. They're sick, they've just got a bad diagnosis, something's happened. They're coming to the pharmacy, they're entrusting us to, guide them, tell them what they're doing, things like that. And so again, we're in that nurturing, taken care of. And so you get to know them, you get to know their families, you get to know their lifestyles, you get to know where their careers are, what they've done. And so would I say that I've networked with my customers? Probably, probably not in the sense that you could. But yes, absolutely. And I believe so much in networking that me and one of the instructors at Delta actually put together a networking presentation for our students, because I think the younger generation, we're so behind, y'all are so behind your phones and you text and, emails and things like that, that we forget that connection, that genuine connection of, having a conversation. And so networking is really important. And networking you can use in any aspect of your life. Like I use it with coworkers. When I first started this job, I reached out. We have an advanced level program at Delta. So I reached out to the director of Bossier Parish Community College and Delgado Community College, and both of those ladies. And we just started a conversation. We started talking. And now we're on a platform together on Facebook where we share all these ideals and come up with different things. And so there's not an area of your life that networking is not important. And so just going up, introducing yourself to someone and carrying on a conversation with them really makes you stick out to me in their eyes. And so I definitely do recommend networking. I think it's huge and very important.
That was a great question. Super important.
Yes, absolutely. Great question.
Girls, anybody
Because even
else?
as adults, we forget that we can network. We forget to network. And so, yes, very important.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure that everybody's gotten their questions out. All right. Anybody? Going once? Going twice? All right. Well, Misty, thank you so much for being with
Yes.
us this evening. This has been marvelous. It's allowed me a chance to kind of jog down memory lane since I was a farm tech for 8 years, back before it was really a thing. And so to see where it's become, and it's such a great option for people to
Hmm.
consider. And I'm not sure a lot of people are really aware that it's out there. And so I think this
Yeah,
is fantastic. And I love the fact that your journey has had twists and turns and tumbles, because that's life. And we
that
all,
is life.
one way or another. And so the way we're able to handle each twist, each turn, each tumble, that's going to determine how we land on our feet later. So thank you for
Yeah.
your transparency, for being authentic with us, and for letting us know that you really have done STEM your way. And so we're going to sign off for our first webinar of 2025. Again, thanks to everybody that was here tonight, and we look forward to our next one. Be watching for it on the National Girls Collaborative Project website. I'm Kathy Cox-Bonial. Thank you so much. Thank you, Misty, and Happy New
Thank y'all.
Year.
Happy New Year. Bye, guys.
Bye.